So I think there's two kinds of games. This is an idea that I'm working on. You can broadly put gaming, oversimplifying, of course, but you can broadly put it into two different categories. Category one, let me go full screen for a second for this. Category one is games that basically give you brain rot. You started playing 2 days ago. Chase, I'm going to give you a deck. I'm going to give you a starter deck, like a full NFT deck. Remind me when I'm done rambling. I'll hook you up, bro, because obviously I know you from other games. So there's like one category of games that basically gives you brain rot, and another category of games that gives you food for thought. That rhymes. I just thought of that. That's good. So you have brain rot or food for thought, and they're utterly different experiences. Brain rot is often disguised as a flow state, but could be better described as a zombie state. It's games that put you in a state of repetitive action to level up stats over time, to increase your resources, but it's very repetitive. And usually the amount of time put in directly reflects in your results, sometimes even more than skillful play. Sometimes quantity of play is more important than quality of play. Most games, it's a blend of both. But games where quantity of grind, amount of time spent grinding is the primary factor, and it's a very repetitive over and over grind, those give you brain rot. Brain rot being defined as reducing your mental facilities, making you less focused, less able to control your attention, and ultimately, in most cases, less happy, less fulfilled. They don't bring you to a place of thinking about stuff. They actually like reduce your mental functioning over time. And that's like half of games or more. And then there's another category of games that give you the opposite of brain rot, which is food for thought. They give you new things to think about, experiences that actually enrich you, give you new perspectives. And generally, quantity of play is not the primary factor. It's more about quality of experience, or if it's a PvP type game, it's quality of play, quality of skill. I think a lot of people are okay with brain rot gaming, and I personally have no interest in it anymore. I've done it in the past, and now I see it what it is. I think as a community, we need to recognize that, and I know if someone's a little bit younger, this might sound really fancy, but if you're older, it probably sounds more tangible. Like, we need to get away from this brain rot gaming and really only put our time into food for thought gaming that increases your experience and at least is a neutral and enjoyable recreational experience, or ideally actually a positive sum experience. But the problem is there's too many games, and I'm sorry, some people's favorite games are going to catch strays here, but there's too many games like kind of RuneScape style skilling, which is just inherently brain rot, and like anything that's AFK skilling, AFK grinding, and even other games like when I played Lost Relics and stuff, like grindy, like post-game repetitive grinds. I do not mean this as an insult towards the player. It's just like a recognition of the reality that that stuff basically reduces your mental like health over time, and it's basically brain rot. Whereas other games, honestly, card games are much more food for thought. If you play card games, the quality of the play is really important. It forces you to think intelligently if you want to get wins, and a rational and reasonable approach is actually the best way to succeed. Whereas a game like Lost Relics or post game in Diablo, stuff like that, idle games, all this stuff, seems to be like increasing your zombie mode and used as a distraction that ultimately turns into some kind of gaming addiction unless you quit or resign yourself to mediocrity. So I just feel like we need to get away from brain rot and get away from games that encourage this repetitive zombie mode that's disguised as a flow state, but is actually a deteriorating mental state kind of thing over time. And we need to focus on games and experiences that give food for thought and increasing, like positive experiences. I think the problem is when content creation, most people get sucked directly in the brain rot, especially on Twitch, because what's rewarded in the short term is to play the same game repetitively for 10 hours a day. And so there's this natural kind of brain rot like ecosystem, and people who in the short term chase more interesting things will often feel like the variety is killing their channel and stuff. But I think over time, like the only path to being happy is to pursue experiences that make your life better over time and stuff. And like, I know that what I'm saying might sound radical or like really like, oh, it's dramatic. Oh, you're saying these games are brain rot, but it's actually not. Like, it is very clear that social media and micro content and shorts and idle games and these things that have notifications popping up every 5 seconds, like they're clearly reducing the mental health and stability of our society. That is obvious, right? That's not exactly a conspiracy. And so I think on the individual level, it's only rational to focus on games that give you a positive sum experience. Otherwise, playing video games is not that different from just doing drugs until eventually you bottom out and hit rock bottom. Like a lot of people's relationship with gaming in the content world and in like the Twitch world is essentially drug addiction, where they go as hard as they can until they hit rock bottom and then they quit. So I think it's time to move towards a new path, you know? So I'll get off my high horse now, but that was something I was thinking about this morning, and I actually think that's super true and super like important, even though I know a lot of people might not give a shit. So just some things I was thinking about this morning.